Okay, so let's start our today's session. In our last session, we have seen uh, select and we have seen insert statements, and we have seen create statement as well, and we have seen different data types in our last session. So, hope you have set up your environment and database systems ready. Uh, Anusha, did you get a chance to set up your database?
Yeah, yes, okay.
Okay. Bablu,
Yes, sir.
Prakati,
Yes, Venkat.
okay, Sai.
Yes.
Okay, okay, fine. So, hope all of you started creating tables. Uh, I think I have given a task in our last session to create few of the tables. Did anybody create it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. Can
Yes.
someone, any one of you, please share your screen and explain what you have done?
Yes, sir. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the given database education institute.
Okay.
Inside, by using this database, I created a schema of students.
Okay.
In that schema of students, I created this table.
Okay.
In that students table, student
Mm-hmm.
ID, student name, student roll number. This
Okay.
one I taken as student ID integer.
Mm-hmm.
This one name as worker.
Mm-hmm.
Roll number is small int.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Branch worker.
Okay.
Uh, this one, let me show. Yeah, this is the students table, student
Okay.
details table.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
next, this one student transactions table. I
Okay.
created. In that student ID, I take an integer.
Mm-hmm.
Transaction ID, big integer.
Mm-hmm.
Amount I taken as decimal.
Okay. Okay.
Decimal I use. Reason worker.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, this is the student transactions table.
Okay.
ID and amount and reason.
Okay.
Next, mm, next this is the department schema.
Okay.
In that departments, I created department table.
Mm-hmm.
In this department, branch ID I taken as primary key.
Okay.
Do not allow null values,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
duplicate keys.
Okay.
In that branch name taken worker.
Okay.
This is the
Okay. Okay.
this is the
Fine.
department
Thank
table.
you. Thank you, Bablu, for sharing it. Yeah. So hope everybody has done the same. Uh, let's begin our class today. Okay. Let me share. Today we are going to discuss about where clause in select. Okay, so we'll see what is where clause and how we can implement where clause in SQL. Okay, so basically where clause is used in SQL to filter out the records. Where clause in SQL will be used to filter out the records. So, meaning by using where clause, we can specify the condition based on a column to filter the records of a table. Okay, so by using the select, you can select the columns to display in the result. Okay, and by using the where clause, you can filter the records. Okay, so select can be used to select the columns, where can be used to filter the records based on a particular condition. Okay, so that is the reason why we use where clause in SQL. Okay, so let us experience this where clause. So I have my retail database, and in the retail database I have four different tables. Okay, so in the retail database I have four different tables. So I've created four different tables. Okay, so I'm just selecting my retail database here, and I have customers, order details, and orders. Let me write a select statement. Select star from orders. Okay, so here if you see, I have these records in my orders table, and I selected all my columns from the orders table. If I want only a particular column in your select statement, you can always specify in your select statement, you can always specify your column name. Okay, so your required column names you can always specify in the select statement. Okay, so as I already told you, this is a query language. Be very very clear. Your data is already present in the tables, and you query your database software to request for the data in whatever the format that you need. That is why we use all these queries. Okay, query we call it as. Okay, so from now on we call them as queries. Okay, query means questioning the database software. Okay, so questioning the database software in the language that database will understand, that is important, right? So that language is SQL. So now I'm asking my database, hey, get me order ID from orders table. So that is the meaning for this statement. Okay. Similarly, if you see, I need all the columns, but I want to filter out the records whose order ID is 4. Okay. So in that case you need to use where clause. Be very very clear. Where clause can be used to filter out the records from the database table. Okay, so to filter out the records from the database table. So when you use that, your records will get filtered, and it will give only the required data according to your where clause condition. Okay, so let us understand few more examples. Select star from customers. This is my data that is already there in my customers table. Okay, so now I want to query the customer whose zip code is 68508. Okay, so in that case what we'll do, we'll specify the condition where column name zip code equals to 68508. So when you do this, you'll get the particular record. Okay, so you can see the column names and table names are not case sensitive in SQL Server. Be very very clear. Okay, so though I have zip init cap here, zip code, I passed small letters of zip code. It still worked. But remember, your data is case sensitive. Okay. So here in usually any of the database, data should be case sensitive, but I don't know why it is supporting, but yeah. So in SQL Server, even if data is also not case sensitive, let me check one more time. Okay, fine. I think it is given its own thing. I already inserted data in this fashion, I guess. Let me. So usually it should not come, but SQL Server is supporting data level case sensitivity also. That is good to have. Yeah, but in databases like Oracle, right? So they won't allow data level case sensitivity. So if data is not matching according to the case sensitivity, it won't return. But in SQL Server, it is supporting. So this is the flavor, right? Which I already explained. Each database has its own way of restrictions. But remember, the concept behind it is same. Okay, so the concept behind it is same. So you are querying the data according to your requirement. Okay, so now we have seen where clause. Okay, so now we'll see where clause with and condition. Okay, so now quickly I'm just creating a table. Create employee underscore details, id integer, name varchar of max, salary integer, department number integer. Integer. Okay, so I have created my table. Now let us quickly start inserting records into the table. So insert into employee details, values, one thing, salary 5,000, department number 10. So let me prepare multiple insert statements. to like 2300, apartment number 10, 3, James 3000, department number 10, 4, Clark, Clark 3200, department number 20, 5, Jimmy 4000, department number 20. So let's insert few records for now. Okay, so I'm inserting this. Okay, done. So now when you say select star from employee details, select star from employee details, you got your records. Okay, you got 5 records. Now how we use where clause with and or conditions, with and or conditions. So let us see how we will do that. Okay, so now I want employees whose salary in between 2000 and 4000 or 2000 and 3000. Okay, so now let us see that. Select star from employee underscore details where salary greater than 2000, greater than or equals to, I'll say, and and salary less than or equals to 3000. So when you do this, see this, you will get the records, right? So and means both the conditions should be satisfied, right? So similarly, or means any one of the condition satisfies, it will return the data. Okay, so now let us understand department underscore number equals to 10 or department underscore number equals to 30. Okay, see, this is my or condition along with where clause. See this, so it doesn't checked for another condition. Okay, rather it has given only department number 10 values. But if you do the same thing with and condition, it won't return any data. See this, because both the conditions has to be satisfied, then only your and condition will return in output. But for your or condition, you don't need to satisfy the both conditions, it will return even if one condition gets satisfied. Guys, are we clear what is where clause, how we are using the where clause to filter the records, and where clause with and condition and or condition? Any questions here? Any queries?
No.
No.
Okay. So now let's move on to the SQL functions. Okay. So in SQL, as like Python or Java, so this is also a language, right? So it also have data types. It also have functions, inbuilt functions to play with the data. Okay. So we'll see those functions, right? So we have multiple different functions that are available in SQL database software. Okay, so here if you see, we have string functions, and we have date functions, and we have aggregation functions, and we have grouping functions. Okay, so we need to understand step by step, and we need to know all the functions that are available in SQL. Okay, so otherwise you won't be able to do manipulations to your data, or you won't be able to process your data. Be very, very clear. So before going to this concept, let us understand, just 1 minute. See this, guys. So understand the null values in SQL. Okay, so there is a concept called null in SQL. So this is very, very important to understand what is a null value in SQL. Okay, so null means it is not present. Okay, it is not present. The value is not present. Okay, that is the meaning for null in SQL database software. Okay, so here if you see, in a typical table, I have around 1, 2, 3, 4 columns that I have, but I'm passing the values to three specific columns: ID, employee name, and a salary. Okay, so now when I pass it, wantedly I am not specifying the department number, and I'm not giving the value to it, but still it was able to insert the data. Okay, so now how your database software is understanding, okay, so he is trying to insert a record into my table. My table is having 4 columns, but he wantedly specified 3 columns, so he's giving the data to 3 columns. So that means he doesn't have data for the fourth column. Okay, let me keep something in that fourth column. So that is null value. Okay, so remember, when you are working with the data or database software in real time, it is very, very important to understand null values. Okay, so null means it is not present. The data is not present for a particular column, or for a particular cell. Okay, so let us see how actually our data is getting stored. See this. Okay, so it is very important to understand null values. Okay, so null means it is not present. The data for a particular cell meaning the collision between the row and column. Okay, so row and column. So for sixth ID, the department number is not present, so that is the reason we got null in that cell. Okay, so we are clear with the null values. Now, how we will use this null based functions? Okay, in the where clause, how we will use these null based functions in the where clause is one more thing that you need to understand. Select star from employee underscore details, where department number is null. This is one function that we have in inbuilt SQL to retrieve the data which is having null values. You can always apply a condition on top of a column whether this column have any null values or not. You can use your count function in SQL to count the records, how many records are nulls. Okay, for that matter you can use your count function to count the records of your table also. But when you executed any kind of a function apart from your column names in your select statement, you will get the unknown column alias, unknown column name here. Here no column name. Okay, but if you want to give a proper name to your function or derived attribute, okay, then you will say it as. Okay, so when you do this, your database software will understand, okay, he is deriving a new column, and for that column he want to give a name called table record count. Okay, so now count is a function. We use this count function on top of a plain table. We use count function along with the where clause. We use count function on a grouped data set also. Okay, we'll see that when we are in group by, but for now understand count function along with where clause or count function on top of a plain table. Now where clause we have also seen is null function. We'll see is not null function. Okay, so department number is not null. That's it. So this will return the records which are not null. Okay, so your count function is a single row return function. Be very, very clear. So all your records where the department ID is not null. So in real time, you may face scenarios like, hey, I have a table which is holding 100 GB data and which is having around 2000 columns. Okay, now they will give you a use case. Hey, out of my 2000 columns, wherever you found nulls, wherever you found nulls, you try to remove or you try to filter those records and then prepare a clean data set for your data science engineer. Or you will face some other use case. You have a table which is holding null values in a integer column, but your data scientist is expecting those null values to be replaced with zeros so that he can perform further aggregations. Right? If you have null values in your integer columns, your min, max, average, mean, all these aggregation functions, sum will return null values. Okay, so be very, very clear. These null values will create a lot of problems in real-time projects. So we need to know proper null handling, right? So the null handling is very, very important. See this, guys. So you try to understand. So you try to understand how we can replace our null values. So there is a function called collace. There is a function called collace in SQL Server. It may be different in different databases, guys, but the concept you need to understand. Okay. So we have a inbuilt function called collace, which can be used to replace your null values to whatever the required value. Okay. So here, if you see my department number for the employee ID 6, I got null value, but I applied a collace function on top of the department column with the replacement value. So wherever in my department column it found null, it will replace that null with the value that you have passed in the collace function. Okay, so this is very important, guys. Try to understand. So I want you to take down these concepts today that we have discussed. We have discussed about applying the where clause on a table. We have discussed about null values in the database table, and we have seen is null, is not null functions, and we have seen how to replace null values in a table. So are we clear on these concepts, guys? Are we clear? Any questions or queries? If not, we'll jump into the SQL functions.
Yeah, clear.
Yeah. Okay. So chalo, let's move on to the SQL functions. So here, if you see, we have of inbuilt SQL functions that are being provided by any kind of a database in the world. You take any database, that database will be having inbuilt SQL functions. Okay. Now, if you have most of the table filled with a lot of string columns, and you need to process those string columns, right? Like Python, we have seen variables and we have seen string-based functions. Similar to that, right? Your database table also have database table also have columns with varchar type, right? So this varchar type is a string type, and if you want to process these columns, or if you want to clean the data, or if you want to do some additional, if you want to add some additional logic, right? So in that case, you'll use this string functions. Okay. So here, if you see, we'll go one by one. We'll quickly cover most of the functions today. Okay. So try to understand the functionality, guys. Try to understand the functionality. It is important to understand the functionality of each function that is there. And once you understood the functionality, you should know where to apply this function. That is what entire query forming. Okay. So remember, business users doesn't come to you and ask, hey Venkat, apply concatenate function and give me the result. Okay, do not expect this kind of requirements, guys. Be very, very clear. Okay, business users will come and ask you, hey Venkat, I have my first name and second name, but I'm expecting another attribute to help me to find out my full name. Could you please provide my full name attribute? This is how the requirement will come. Okay, in that, when you hear that kind of requirement, your mind should automatically trigger, okay, so this requirement can be solved by using a concatenate function. You should think, because you are the technical person, that guy is the domain person, and he doesn't know what is database is, what is tables, or what is SQL is. You have the database, you have the data with you, and according to the ask, you have to provide the data. That's it. Okay. So now let us understand one by one, and then we will complete the string functions at least today. Okay. So now we'll start with concat function. So concat is a function that can be utilized to concatenate two strings. Who is joining now? Oh my god. Okay, so concat is a function that can be utilized to concatenate two string values or two string columns. Okay, so here if you see, I have customers table. Okay, select star from customers. So I have my first name and I have my last name. Okay, so now I'm using the concatenate function, concat of first name, comma. So what is the concatenate string that you want to use? Let us say in my case I'm using pipe. You can use space, you can use any any character, right? So last name as full name. Okay, so remember, when you are deriving the columns, column aliasing is very, very important. The concept of as, we call it as alias. Okay, that means renaming. Okay, so the alias means renaming of the column or the second name. Okay, so when you use this without aliasing, the output looks confusing. There is no column name for this data. So you are missing metadata for this attribute or for this data. So when metadata is being missed, right? So what will happen? There is no meaning for this data, right? So there is no meaning for it. So by looking at the data, we are able to understand this is registration date, this is zip code, this is state, this is city. But by looking at this data, what I am getting, I'm not getting any sense of it. Correct? So that is where the column aliasing is very, very important in SQL. So when you do this, you have derived a new column. Okay, you can call all your columns also along with your new column. So your new column used concat function. It used the syntax is you can concat a column name or multiple columns with a concatenation operator. Okay, so this is the syntax. Okay, so let's try this way. Say this. So it should not be only your column. You can also add constants in front of your you can also add column constants and you can form a concatenated value and then you can add it to your table. If you want to do concatenation between the columns data, you can do. If you want to do concatenation with the constant values also, it is possible. Okay, so this is the concatenation operator. So first name, I will go with the last name. So that is the full name. Okay, so concat functionality is completed. Now let's move on to the length function. Okay, now what this length will do, let us understand that. Select star comma length of my first name from customers. See this? You got your okay. So you got your length, right? So how many characters are present in your first name? So that length will be returned from this length function. Okay, that length will be returned from this length function. Okay, so when we use it on integer functions or integer data, it will work. So let me check the type of my, okay, it is integer only. Okay, so that is the length function. Now let's move on to the lower and upper function. So these are very familiar functions for us because we already seen them in Python, right? So lower and upper. So here if you see lower of first name, lower case. So simply it will convert the case to lower of your first name. Okay. So when you use upper, it will convert everything to uppercase. Okay, it will convert everything to uppercase. So these are few manipulations that you may do in real time using these kind of functions. Okay, so the raw data that is coming in for you is not always the final data, right? So you may be doing a lot of cleaning process to serve the data to machine learning engineers and data scientists and business analysts, right? So to serve the data in a proper format, you have to do all the cleaning activities. So this is also one of the responsibility of a data engineer, to cleanse the data. The cleaning process we'll call it as cleansing. So data cleansing and profiling are two responsibility of a data engineer. Be very, very clear. Okay, developing data pipelines is one of the responsibility, and doing the data cleansing and data profiling. So profiling means the transformations and applying processing logics, all these things, and writing the data into the proper data model is also one of the responsibility of data engineers. So you can ask me a question, hey Venkat, you're telling all these functions, where we will use these functions? When we were doing a mini project, you'll get to know the usage of all these functionalities, guys. Okay, so do not go to a negative state that we don't use all these functions. Definitely we'll use all these functions when the requirement comes. Okay, so you should prepare that mindset. Okay, fine. So let's move on. So let's move on to the L trim and R trim and trim functions. So these are a few functions which we will use to remove the spaces for a particular string column. Okay, for a particular string column. So here if you see, I don't have any columns which have space. So I'll straight away take my example from here. So here if you see, I am copying my example for L trim. Okay. So here I have a hello string. It may be a column also, guys. Okay, it may be a column also. Be very, very clear. It may be a column also. It need not to be always a string. We can also test our functions, or we can also test our functions functionality using plain strings as well. So that is what I'm doing. you can also pass the column also inside the function. Okay, but the functionality doesn't vary. Even if you pass column, you pass plain string, the functionality doesn't vary. Here if you see, I have spaces in my left side of the string, or I have spaces in my right side of the string. But when I use ltrim, it removed the spaces only in the left side. Okay, these spaces will create a lot of problems, guys, especially when you are working with the Excel files, a manually entered Excel files. So we may get some kind of manual entered Excel files in few projects, right? So the spaces are very very important. Okay. So now let us see one example. When I'm discussing with spaces, right? So I want to tell you one more example. Okay. So I have employee details, right? So that, so this is my employee table, right? So now I'm inserting a record into this table. See this, insert into employee underscore details, ID 7, name Michael, salary 2500, department number 30. Okay, so this is my record. But wantedly, see here, I'm giving few spaces after Michael. But practically, guys, you won't be able to detect. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, you won't be able to detect that space when you do select, right? So you won't be able to detect that particular space when you do select. So here you are seeing Michael as like all the strings only, right? Right? But when these spaces will create problem. So let us see this use case. Select star from employee underscore details where employee name equals to, okay. What is this? I don't understand this database. It is behaving weird. Okay. So here if you see, it is automatically trimming the spaces and giving it. Okay. But usually in few databases, it will create the problem in such a way that when you exactly trim the data, then only it will match. Okay, so like you can take the databases like Snowflake or Oracle or any other databases, but there, if the data is holding spaces, then definitely it will try to uh, it will try to calculate that spaces when you are giving the condition. Okay, but let us see how actually it is storing the data. Length of emp underscore name. I have 6 characters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But why it did not save my spaces? Yeah. Okay, I removed it. I'm trying to add again. Maybe this insert statement won't take these spaces or something. See, now it is okay. So the before spaces it is calculating. If we give after spaces, it is not calculating, I think. So if you remove this condition, see here it took 10. Okay. So that is the behavior, guys. You need to understand. So here if you see the before spaces is calculated, but after spaces did not calculated when you do insert statement, right? So that is something that you need to understand anyway. So we understood the functionality of ltrim, right? So it can be utilized to remove the spaces of a column that is there in the left hand side. Okay, you can remove the spaces of a particular column the left hand side. So if we see R trim, the same functionality will be applied in the right hand side. Okay. So now let us see the length of it. Right. So here if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 3, these are three spaces. Okay. If you see 1, okay, 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, three spaces. So 3 plus 5, 8. So your rtrim function removed the other three spaces. Okay. So your rtrim function removed the other three spaces. So that is what your rtrim function will do. Okay. So we will jump into the next function called trim. Okay. So this trim function, what it will do, it will remove the spaces before and after of your string, right? So here if you see, if you simply calculate the length of the actual string, right? Select length of this string as total length. It is having 8. Okay. So now if you do trim, right? And let's find out the length. So it will give 5. So it is used to remove the spaces before and after of your string. Okay. So even for our length function also, if you see, it is not calculating the after spaces. You observed or not, I don't know, but if you see, it did not calculated the after spaces. Okay. So maybe if we have if we have it in the data itself, the inputted data, then only it will calculate. But from these functions, the insert into values or these functions are not calculating, right? So they are considering this is where your string is getting end, right? Fine, it's okay, no problem for us, but we need the functionality to understand. Okay, so we have ltrim function to remove the spaces left hand side. We have length function to calculate the total length of a string. We have rtrim function to remove the spaces towards the right side of a string, and then we have a trim function to remove the spaces before and after for a particular string, right? So these are the functions that you need to understand and practice. Okay. So tomorrow we will see few more functions. So we have few set of functions here. Uh, we have char index, pattern index, and then left, right, reverse, right? And we have few date functions. and we have aggregation functions. We will see all of them tomorrow. Okay, we'll close these functions tomorrow. Okay. Any questions in today's session, guys?
No.
So you may feel that it is very simple, guys, but if you are not practicing it, you won't be able to solve a single query. This is damn sure. Okay, you may feel like, okay, so this is very simple. Select where, okay, it looks like a English language, and we can apply all these functions if we don't need to practice. If you feel like this, at the end, if I give a task to you, you won't be able to write a select also with proper syntax. So the magic behind SQL is, if you are not practicing it on a regular fashion, you will lose the syntaxes. Okay. In interviews, people will concentrate on the SQL syntaxes. Be very, very clear. If you don't know how to read a data from a table also, then it will give a very bad impression on you. So I suggest you to practice daily at least half an hour on the concepts that we have discussed. Okay, so then you will get hands on SQL. So after completing SQL practice, I want you to explore on the each function that you have learned. Take multiple examples and practice. That will help you. Okay, so that's all I have for today, guys. uh, I have one small ask. So tomorrow, how many of you will be available? I think tomorrow Saturday, right? Yeah. So I need to get the stats so that I'll. Okay, how many of you? Sai is available. Okay, Bablu is available. What about Anusha and Pratika? Oh, Pratika left. Okay. Okay, I'll post. I'll post. Okay, I'll post it in the WhatsApp group. Okay, Ranganath is not available. Okay, so I'm planning, Ranganath, when you will be available tomorrow? What is your available time?
Evening like that. Morning only I will start to Hyderabad.
Okay, okay. Fine. How about Sunday, Ranganath? Will you be available?
Yeah, Sunday will be available.
Okay. So, who all will be available on Sunday, guys? Sunday, is it okay for you to join the class from 7 to 9? Okay. Okay. I think we need Pratika's response, so I'll post it in the WhatsApp to Pratika. I'll post in the WhatsApp group, guys. We may have a Sunday session. Okay, so I request you to make yourself available. If the session is not there, also I'll post, because these are weekend sessions. I want everybody to be available. Then only I'll take these weekend sessions. Otherwise, I don't take. Okay. So I will check with Pratika. If Pratika is available, then definitely we can go for Sunday session. Okay. So Sunday, 7 to 9 will be the session. It's a 2 hour session. We'll take 15 minutes break after 1 hour. Okay. So that's how I'm planning. I'll try to cover most of the SQL concepts. Okay. Then we may left with few concepts. Those concepts will cover next week. Okay, so as soon as we complete the SQL concepts, we will quickly jump into the cloud computing concepts and Google Cloud Platform. Okay, so that is our core agenda. uh, hope you will understand, and take it in a positive way. Okay, Thank you so much for joining once again on Sunday.
Thank you.
Thanks.